as well. My name is Lee Horton, and I am absolutely privileged and pleased to welcome the opportunity to chat with Mr. Tim Fox today. Tim, how are you, sir?
I'm good, really good actually, because coming up is the 12th month anniversary to where it all began, the book.
Oh, amazing. So I guess first, like, who is Tim Fox, and how has he got to sit in that seat?
Oh, that's a good question. Tim Fox is someone who this year is 40 years on from being an apprentice in manufacturing. And having done an apprenticeship and done all the college and all of that, got involved in continuous improvement some 25 plus years ago when I took a formal role in British Steel distribution and helped them internally, because I was employed by them, just drop into sites and help with that continuous improvement effort.
Amazing, amazing. And you mentioned, well, you kind of teased about 12
Sorry.
months ago. Um, what do you mean? What happened 12 months ago, Tim?
I went on holiday. I went on holiday and I was idly flicking through Facebook, as you do, and I came across an image which has just changed what I've done for the last 12 months. Not wholeheartedly, but bees have suddenly entered into my world. The image was a drunk bee. That wasn't the particular thing that caught my attention. It was the bouncer bees that stopped the bee having become drunk on nectar in hotter climates that prevent the drunk bee from getting into the hive and causing havoc, basically. And I suddenly went, wow, there's an opportunity for something I'd scribbled in some notes many years before.
Amazing, amazing. And then, so I guess actually, right. So you're a published author. You have, and it's
Yeah.
not quite a book that you. It's not quite a book, is it? It's more than a book.
Yeah, it's this sounds very grand. It's a framework, it's an activation, it's a problem solving, it's a lot of things, because I didn't want to write a boring book, which is why my notes that I created some 10, 13 years ago, they got put on a shelf. And when I came off my holiday, I knew exactly where the book was. I knew exactly where it was. I grabbed it off the shelf and I looked at the diagrams and some of the notes that I'd put in years ago, and I was like, right, it can't just be a book. And I've used problem solving exercises and used problem solving sort of stories, if you like, but they're all different countries, companies, different scenarios. And as a learner, it's so difficult to get your head around all of that. So it just struck me that if I could incorporate both of those ideas together, both the book and the problem solving, and sort of mesh them together, if you like, that could potentially be quite an interesting book. So that's how it came about, and that's what got written, really.
Amazing, amazing. So I guess let's dive right into it. Not to the book, but to the topic that we're talking today about
Yeah.
how to create a buzz about change. It's I get when So there's a lot of organizations out there that are struggling. There's a lot of organizations. Every organization has opportunity, but not every organization wants to take the opportunity to change. How do you create a buzz about change working with the teams and businesses that you do?
It's so similar to yourself in many respects. It's about gaining that connection with people, actually gaining people's trust before you've perhaps even said a word. Because if you haven't got that trust, if you haven't got that, we're in it together, and there's definitely a human connection there, nothing ever's going to get going as far as I'm concerned. So for me, if you haven't got that trust with the very people who you're trying to get on board, nothing happens. So you've got to engage with them at a level which is 100% appropriate and 100% is human. So that can come across in just not asking crazy curious questions right at the start, albeit that you want to. It's just starting to immerse yourself into their world and not force yourself on people, but also let them know that you can help if you like.
Yeah, I love that. I love that a lot. Like I talk a lot about meeting them where they are, not expecting
Yeah.
them to meet us where we are. And I always remember, like, so this is my 20th year doing like change and stuff. And when I got my first job in change, I went out to celebrate with my best mate, and he was like, "Oh, you're not one of them, are you?" I said, "What do you mean one of them?" He said, "One of them who go into where people work and tell them how to do the job better. If you come into where I work, tell me how to do my job better. I'll tell you to go away," or words to that effect. And
Yeah.
and I thought to myself in that moment, then, if my best mate wouldn't help me, oh, sorry, if my best mate wouldn't trust me to help him get better, then what chance have I got with everybody else? And
Yeah.
and, and so, like, I absolutely love what you're saying there, because it is all about connection, but it's starting small. It's starting about meeting them where they are, understanding where they are as well, isn't it?
Yeah. There was a post that caught my eye, must be a month or so back now, and it was three lonely brushes against a wall. And for me, when you walk into places and you see stuff like that going on, you see those brushes, and it's almost like they haven't got a home, and nobody's bothered to define what that home is and make it real. Then you're just going to get it. And I don't mean like super standardized or anything like that, but just real opportunity for making it clear where those brushes need to be and everything.
It's- yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of transformations or change activities get quite a bit of bad press because they're very tool centric.
Mm. Yeah.
The tool or the thing that everybody believes that they need, rather than starting with like connecting with the people or person, um, and the initiative as well. And every time I talk to you, it is all about the people. It's all about engaging those that do the work. Has that always been the case for you?
Um, I suppose. I mean, I just keep on pinching myself for things that I've done, you know. So doing an apprenticeship, I didn't want to go to university. So for me, doing an apprenticeship was a way of connecting with real people straight from the off. And I don't know whether it's a natural thing, or something that because of other, you know, broader things like scouts and stuff like that. I did scouts and ventures, and we had a friendship group that was, you know, and still is, you know, very active, going out and doing stuff, but solving things that other people have that other people are wanting to do, whether that's the inability to walk after you've walked for 10 miles and you're absolutely, I don't know why I'm talking about walking, you're flipping run marathons, you. But you know, if people are struggling, is give them some support and give them some encouragement. And for me, it's when you're starting out on helping organizations with improvement, if they can't get some excitement about the improvements that have been made, if that isn't a real thing, then you're on a hide into nothing. So it's not just about my energy, it's about everybody's energy in the organization. So you've got to get those people who are there all of the time when I'm not there. We've also got to get excited about it, and also, you know, use the phrase create the buzz about it, so that people can see that there's genuine improvement going on, albeit that it might start incredibly small. But the small things matter, and they can matter dramatically. And that might just be a signal to say, hey, I'm running out of something, rather than waiting till we've actually run out of something. You know, the amount of times I've done that in organizations, and it's transformed the business. That early signal of, hey, I'm running low, rather than I've actually run out. It's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, starting small. And I guess, so when you're talking about creating the excitement, creating the buzz, and starting small, a lot of people and organizations, they want the silver bullet. They want the thing that's going to make the biggest difference to whatever the metric is. How do you create the buzz at all layers of the organization to get them to see that actually these small things are not small things, really?
One is data. Absolutely, data. It sounds boring, but you know, to have some data. So years ago, I saw this. You know, if you haven't got a number of changes happening and you can't speak eloquently about them, then nothing's happening, because you've got to be the advocate for change. And that's what I sort of think as myself as is, I'm holding up whatever this problem is within the organization and say, look, this, whatever you got, this is the problem. This is the thing that you need to solve. And then if they can see that one thing, it's like, well, how many other things have you got going? So I created an action, or should I say, transformed an action log into a pace log many, many years ago. And it's that cumulative trend of problems, but not just that, it's rounding it off as well, making sure you've got that feedback at the end of it to say, whoever the person was who had a problem, did that problem get resolved? And does it fit? Is it a good ending that has happened to that problem? Or is there still something outstanding? So really questioning, is it effective? Because if it isn't, fine, let's go and pick up another aspect of that problem, whether it be a lack of instructions or a lack of training, which it often comes down to be fairly. You know, beyond that lack of instructions, if that's still missing, there's a chance that 6, 8, 10, 12 months down the line, that problem's going to come back and bite you again, because we haven't done that due diligence. So for me, that effective bit is the absolute, but you're trending all four of those cumulatively. And I can't tell you the amount of businesses where I've said, just show me your pace chart after I've been working with them a while. And it's almost like you can, it's like I've never had to read a cardiac trace or a tachograph, but I imagine it's like those sorts of things, and that you're looking at these 4 lines, and if any of them are flat, you can straight away go, there's your problem. But then if there's too much of a gap, you know, between the different lines, then you can say there's a problem. Or if they're converging and they're all tightly spaced together, it's like, oh, there's a problem, because you probably at that point develop more capacity or more capability in your organization than you know to take on more change, because it's not just one person at this point, it's multiple people. So if you're sort of bimbling along at this sort of steady rate, where you could be going at a much higher rate, and then also bring more people in and develop more capability in others and get more people enthusiastic, then great. But you know, we're talking about something which is possibly in some organizations 12 months down the line before you get to those stages. But in the early stages, it's just what things are going on. And if the leader can't speak about the absolute key problems that are there without referring to some set of notes, it's quite sad. Sorry. It really is quite sad.
It is. So you mentioned the PACE, the acronym PACE. So
Yeah.
what are the 4 component parts of that, and what should people be tracking to I guess make sure that it is going in the right direction? And the reason why I ask this is because the first time that I came across your PACE acronym and tracking it, like, it resonated with me, because I believe that that the big challenge we've got is not problem solving, it's problem finding as well. And so what I really resonated with you and your approach is the recognition that we're finding enough problems as well. So just talk us through your creation of that, and what are the 4 things?
So I used to use an A4 piece of paper with 10 problems on it. It was a standard template, you know, going back a few years. didn't have Google, and we didn't have AI agents and all the rest of it. So it was literally a piece of paper that had all of the headings on it. And it suddenly dawned on me after I'd filled in sort of at one site, we'd filled in, I don't know, there must have been 8 or 10 of these sheets. It suddenly dawned on me that we've got a story here unfolding. And it was dead easy to count because 10 per sheet, 8 sheets, 80 problems. Okay, of those 80, how many of them have we defined what the next step is, what the action is? And I always like to think of problems not as a static thing, but as something that's got life, it's got energy to it. So if the next action doesn't solve the problem, but it finds some information out that gives you more clarity, if you like, on what the actual problem is, that's good enough. We're moving it. It's a better position than we were perhaps 2 weeks before, because we hadn't identified the problem. We didn't know what the size of the problem was. So it's that whole description around the problem which you're trying to make better, if you like, so that you get the who, what, why, where, when, and you're ultimately heading towards that elusive root cause, as it can be in some cases. But that's some of the bigger problems. Often it's the brushes haven't got a home, or we haven't got enough brushes, or we haven't got a place where we can tidy up with. We haven't got a bin. That's a favorite one. You know, we haven't got a bin. But that problem identification is the first one. So problem, the P is the problem identified. The A is the assigned. So it's got an assigned owner, not 4 or 5 names against it, just one person's name. If you think about that, we're just trying to move the problem on and find some information about it, that assigned owner might be different as you get into some of the latter stages of the problem solving, where it's like the same problem reincarnated is problem 5, problem 6. So you've got problem, assigned owner, and then you've got complete, which is the obvious one. And if you've been smart about it and you've got some problems that can be solved in the same sort of time period, so it can be done within a week. It might take half an hour or so more effort. So it's got some meat to it. But finding half an hour sometimes is absolutely precious, particularly if you're a frontline worker. And then the final one is the effective. So that's where the acronym PACE, problem, assigned, complete, and effective. That's your total acronym. But literally, it came out of doing it with a paper chart.
Love it. Love it. Paper. Have you turned your camera off, Tim? Are you stopping me from looking at you?
No, not at all. Let's just is that solved it?
You're back on again.
Some pop-up had turned up. Was it in the dark? Like some dark force.
Yeah. So I always believe that we need to enable people to find more problems, because the solving bit is the easy bit. And what I really like about your PACE mechanism is that we are making sure that we're finding problems habitually. Because I've been in so many organizations where they'll introduce problem solving, and then after a period of time, the problem that they'll try to solve is that problem solving is not working, because they've not habitually been finding enough problems. How do you encourage consistent habitual problem finding?
Oh, I've made some mistakes in the past. I was, again, I keep saying lucky, fortunate, whatever you want to call it. I was trained by Peter Wilmot, who trained me in TPM stuff, and he had his entry level to TPM stuff, total productive maintenance. His entry level stuff one was something called Spot the Rot, and it's brilliant. I've walked around some very big organizations, and you know, each director has had a digital camera, and then we've gone and reviewed what was on that camera as a collective. So there's been like 8 or 9 people with 8 or 9 cameras, and it's almost like, look how terrible I've found, look at the mess I've found. It's like, yeah, it's good on one level in that it's waking people up and eyes are being opened. But then that pace chart suddenly goes from, you know, a nice steady gradient, which is okay, to suddenly go, and it's like off the scale, because suddenly you've got, you know, think about it. If 10 people have just been walking around a facility and they've each found 10 problems, there's 100 straight off the bat. Or what if they'd been out there for a few hours and they'd found, I don't know, 40 problems each? You've now got 400 problems to solve. So for me, yeah, I can generate lots and lots of things that need to be focused on, but are they actually going to shift that dial, whatever it is, whether it's profitability or whether it's you know, reduction in working capital, or it's you know, some sort of productivity metric or something? You know, if it's not moving any of them, then yeah, you can keep on finding things, but you know, are we then sort of polishing the handrails on the Titanic? You know, it doesn't really do anything at that point. So for me, the light bulb moment was when I was working with I was working in a sports equipment manufacturer, a flipping great product, but that's a totally different story. I had two team leaders working for me, and I just needed to get the weekly plan out, and they were just dead excited, really, really excited. And bearing in mind, by this point, I'd been using Spotler Op for probably 10 years. And I just said to them, could you just leave me alone for half an hour so I can finish the plan? Yeah, but I want to tell you about this latest thing we've just done. And they were like so excited. And it's like, how do you sort of dial that back? And I was like, right, I don't quite understand what you're talking about. Go and grab some photos. Photos of what? Photos of what? I was like, and it literally was in the short space that I'm telling you now was how the conversation started that led me on to this next one. And photos of what? I said, oh, just take 10 photos. 10 photos of what? I said, right, 5 things that you're really, really chuffed with. Some of these ones you're trying to explain to me, but I just can't see it. I said, and then take 5 photos of things that you're not proud of still, things where there's still opportunity. And that was it. That's take 10. And it literally came to me in that quick conversation that we were having. And I've used it so many times since then, you know, like, must be 18 years now I've been using Take 10. And it's, for me, it's fascinating because you get to see what other people are seeing when they take a photo. When they take a photo, they've framed whatever it is. One of the ones that came back in that very first one was the company logo. I was like, okay, explain this. And they were proud that they worked for that they worked for Ivec. I don't mind saying it, a cracking organisation. I still have time with them now. They were proud that they worked for this company and what that company made and what it did, the impact that it had on people's lives. So it was like, wow, okay, well, that wasn't quite where I was going, but suddenly it gave me a real human insight into those individuals that we could then work some more, if you like. And it really was so enthusiastic. But when I've used it since, again, what you do is you're seeing what they see, and what they see, if it isn't quite what you want to get action because it isn't what you perceive as the coach, as the mentor, as the, you know, improvement bod, whatever you want to be called, you just perhaps need to stop a moment and say, okay, they've taken that photo. What is it that I'm not seeing? Is it something that actually is very important, but I just haven't understood their process, their environment properly? So if I get to see their environment through their lens, I'd be daft to just go, no, we're not doing that. So then to dig a little deeper, if you like, as to why is that important? Why is that a problem? Or why is that something you're proud of? And to ask those richer questions, if you like, to get behind what that thing that we're first seeing is. And sometimes they've been tremendous. You know, we've seen like minor stops. And then as a result of that minor stop, we've effectively doubled output from a photo. You know,
Love that.
it's massive. It really is massive.
Yeah.
I know exactly where that is, but I can't say. I can't say. So much of the stuff I've done, I just can't say. It's, you know, you sign an NDA and that's it.
Yeah, and I think a couple of points on this. So what you've just done then with the take 10 thing is really clearly articulate one way to meet that person where they are, meet them where they are by understanding what they are seeing, whether it's by the photographs, the conversations that follow, whether it's by them taking you to the place of work and stuff as well. It's just another great example of that. And then the second point around the organizations and the changes that you've left behind, that you can't talk about, but you've left behind a legacy, haven't you? Whether it's a result on a balance sheet, or whether it's a new thought, a capability in a people, in teams and things. What's the reason you do what you do, Tim?
God, you always ask that emotional question, don't you? It's the buzz. It's seeing people change in front of your eyes, and I'm not going to lie, it gets me. It really gets me, because you're seeing somebody who, in some environments, they're actually in quite a hopeless situation. They're not being listened to. They're dealing with a mountain of problems. It might be an ailing piece of equipment, or it might just be, you know, the work gets done, but how it's presented to them, because they're in a small part of the factory, they're just, it's almost like the guy peeling spuds. You know, he's got this mountain of spuds next to him, and he's just deflated. Whereas he could peel, or she could peel, the same amount of spuds in the same amount of time, but just not overwhelming them. You know, here's an amount of spuds that we want you to peel in the next 5-10 minutes, and then when you're done, there'll be some others coming along. A bit like that Charlie Chaplin film where he's sort of rapidly trying to keep up and he just can't. For me, it's some of those things as well that is wrapped up in it. So you suddenly are able to, you know, put two bin systems or whatever it is in place, and then some people have then got a dignity in what they do, rather than being undignified and being left with a mountain of stuff. One of the worst ones was, it was around Christmas time, and this people, they had, I can't show them, I have to move back. They had this vat about like so big, and so big across. It must have held, I don't know, half meter by half meter by half meter, and they were filling plastic bags, and I'm not kidding you, with 2 spoons to spoon out the right quantity of mincemeat to go into a kit, mincemeat that going like a mince pie. And I was just like, unbelievable that somebody's given a person that job to do. It just it just deflated me, seeing that somebody had been, well, how long is it going to take you to do this? Probably all day and part of the way into tomorrow as well. And I know that jobs have to be done, and you know there's value in that, but it just deflated me that someone was being overwhelmed in that manner.
I mean, it's the human impact, isn't it? Like,
it is.
What we do collectively is, and one of the reasons why I really resonate with you and what you've done and how you talk about what you do is because there's a person behind every process, every step of a process, largely as well, and it's about making it easier, simpler, better, more fun for that person,
More fun,
and a highly
absolutely.
engaged employee. So we've got a best model, and when I started doing this, I understood, I went to try to understand why organizations employed consultants and coaches, and it was largely to improve the T part of the best model, the business targets, and then because of companies like Virgin and stuff like that, and they realized that satisfaction of customers was the thing that drove business target success. And then about 10 years ago, it was all about employee well-being and engagement. And highly engaged employees drive customer satisfaction, achievement of business targets. But then underneath all of that, it's the behaviours of people.
Yeah.
And what you talk about, what I talk about, is focusing on the person, making them feel the right way, and whether that's the leader, it's the leader's role to create the environment that engages the employee, that drives this customer satisfaction, to achieve business success, rather than just starting at the top, starting on the profit and trying to improve. When I hear you speak, Tim, and what's important to you, it is the person, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I've had a real light bulb moment over the last probably week or so now, and I've just clarified all my thinking, because so often I can think of one serial production company, and I can't name the name, but the lady who took on the role of training people with this software that I was delivering at the time. And you could see her growing in front of you. And she became like their internal mentor. And I hate the word training, because I think we never stop training. And I think it belittles what we're talking about. But the ability to talk to people in a really good, where we first started, in a really good human way. But to see that other person develop into that role, and her pause and her hesitate and her stop and ask some really compelling questions of colleagues so that they could understand it for themselves. For me, that is where we need to be. It's not just about training people. It's not just like sheep dip them and they've come out all nicely freshly coated in something where they're a barrier now and they can identify all the waste and all that. Yeah, that's really important. If all we're ever going to do is just sheep dip people in and out the sheep dip tank, we've lost it. We've got to put some soul into this, and we've got to see that actually the smartest thing is to develop people into individuals who can ask cracking questions, absolutely cracking questions, that then exposes more stuff, that your capability index then just rises and rises, because you've got more and more people. You don't need consultants at that point. You've cracked it. You've absolutely cracked it. And then it's self-sustaining. So, how many people in your business are improvers? How many people in your business are mentors to other people? And not through some sort of licensed or some sort of program where they've got to go and be interviewed to be a mentor. Flipping heck, some of the best mentors I've come across, I haven't got any badges or any awards or anything. They're just great, wholesome people who have that knack of asking really, really good questions to others. It's not rocket science, but I tell you what it is. It's where that stops, those open, and those listen. There's two of them, and there's two of them. There's only one of them, and I've been accused of it because I've been so excited. I've just babbled and babbled, whereas actually the strength now is demonstrate you're an okay person and that you're there to help. And then as soon as the others start talking, you shut up, let them talk, let them be the ones who tell you about the latest thing that they've done, the most exciting thing they've done, the 10 photos, the where we're going next, what we're doing next. For me, once you've got that starting to happen in an organization, you're really onto something. But there is another problem, Lee.
Oh, go on.
It's that sheep dip tank.
Yeah.
It's that sheep dip tank, because so many people fill it up too full. Let's talk about Six Sigma, this white belt, black belt, green belt, yellow belt. Let's fill it with you need to know PDCA, SDQ, PDC, OEE, TPM, TPS. Where do we stop? Oh, then you got the 5 Ws, not forgetting the 5 Ys. Oh, and the 6 Ps. Oh, and then we could introduce some other crazy names like Mr. Ishikawa. Oh, your mind's a mess when you know, I've been forced to deliver some of these training programs, and I've been like, oh, why am I doing this? No one's going to care. No one's going to listen. No one's going to remember half this stuff. So for me, let's just take a breath and do some sensible stuff and just train people on the absolute core stuff. And there isn't that much in the core stuff. Yeah, I know there's big problems that require analysis and lots of data to be able to establish what it is. But gee, if you're walking like to an organization and say, right, the first thing we're going to do is collect 6 months worth of data, you'll find very quickly that the 5 or 6 people who are coming along with you, there might only be one left, and that's just because they love data, and that's why they were on the project.
Yeah. So when you say the core stuff, so we're aligned here, actually, what do you believe the core stuff are?
Absolutely, without a doubt, the wastes. And I know online there's like a massive intellectual slanging match almost about how many wastes there are. For me, there's 10. It's as simple as, not that I've invented some, but when I was trained, there was the Tim Woods, yeah, or Tim Wood, as I was taught it. I was a really late adopter to skills. I was really, really late to adopt that as an 8. But I get it now, totally get it. But all of those, if we want to get technical, all of those are Muda.
Yeah.
They're not the other 2, which aren't mentioned. Goldratt did an amazing job on talking about variation, and now everybody talks about it as bottlenecks, but he was talking about variation. And if you can establish that piece of equipment or that process where that's your bottleneck, funnily enough, look at a neck of a bottle and it's like this wide, unless you get that fancy wine where it's like really wide. But generally, it's that wide, and that's what's constraining everything. And if you can understand where that variation is and increase that bottleneck, you're going to increase the plant capacity. So for me, you've got to put Muri and Muri in as well. So you've got to talk about variation, and you've also got to talk about overburdening as well, whether it's a person, whether it's a piece of kit, you know, a piece of kit that's like 30 years old, hasn't been maintained, that piece of kit's being overburdened. Then you can get down a whole TPM rabbit hole if you really want to, but that's fine. Bring it on. I'll come and talk to you about TPM. So for me, absolutely core is knowing those wastes. And for me, I always chanted them out, and that's what I've put about chanting them out. Make people repeat it. You know, your ABCs, learning to spell things as kids. You repeated, and you repeated. So if there's a really good little litmus test that you want to do in your organization, is send people on that sheep dip training, yeah, and then 2 weeks later go up to them and say, right, I'm talking about Tim Woods, or downtime if that's your flavour. I'm talking Tim Woods now. Can you give me what I in Tim Woods is? And if they go, you know, straight away that sheep dipping did nothing, yeah. You've got to learn them by rote, and then you've got to go and it's that old see one, do one, teach one. You've got to get out there in their workplace and actually allow people to just spend some time looking and seeing and understanding. Oh, that's what he meant about transport. But Bobby's on the forklift truck, and that's Bobby's job. Bobby's job is to transport. So if we remove transport, we're going to lose Bobby. No, you're not. You're not at all. But it might be that Bobby isn't going to be quite so overburdened because Bobby's trying to make sure that 6 or 7 lines are kept full with material all the time. And Bobby's like absolutely stressed off his head because he can't do that job. Yet All of that is bundled in transport. So for me, core, absolute core, you asked me, that, SIPOC, and I'm afraid whoever came up with SIPOC was missing something. So that's supplier input, process, output, customer. They missed yield. So not everything that you put into a process, you get out of a process. That box of doing the thing, sometimes it comes out as waste or yield loss, or yield as people talk about it. Yeah, they even talk about it as yield. It's like, it's not yield. Yield is what comes in and what goes out. That's yield. Yield loss is what goes that way, but whatever. You've got to understand that diagram. You've got to be able to just draw that diagram of, you know, an arrow into a box with a swirly thing, with another arrow coming out, with another arrow coming out as output. Because if you can do that and you start to look at everything as like a big box and stuff comes in and stuff comes out. I love that. Paddy McGuinness does it now, the inside the factory, and they zoom out almost, it must be with a drone or whatever, and they zoom out and they go, coming into the factory is so much milk every day, and coming out the factory is so many, I don't know, penguin bars, whatever it is that they're making at that factory. And that's like SIPOC 101. And it's like brilliant. But with some of these really advanced facilities, they're really smart because they're optimizing all of the waste. You know, the crunchy bit in Kit Kats, do you know what it is? No. It's actually the wafer that's spoiled in the process, ground up and put back in.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Every day's a skill there, Tim. Every day's a skill there.
So for me, those two are absolutely key to be able to define things. And then you get into, well, what else would you put on the list? For me, it's a really good problem description, to be able to describe problems in the best way that you can articulate it. And it comes back to this being the advocate. You know, it's like, oh, seen a problem over there, right, pick it up, right, have you got that problem? Yeah, well, it's such and such at the minute. Okay, is there anything else about that problem? Well, it means that when it pops up, we can't produce anything. Right, okay, so there's more to that problem than first meets the eye. And getting them to describe all of the different facets that go around with that problem, so that you've got people who can see stuff, but not just that, but they can see it and describe it in a format that other people can understand it. And this is where the wheels often fall off wagons of continuous improvement, because the very people who are being asked to do this stuff, they then say, oh, my writing's not very good, or I can't write that down. Well, don't bother, get somebody else to write it down. All you need to do is talk. Just say it as you see it. You know, it's almost like Mr. Chips, is it? Say it as you see it. Come on, what is it on telly at the minute? Yeah. And if we can get those, if we can get some of those absolute basics sorted, but it's not just that, it's challenging people so that you actually go back to them and say, okay, you learned all about Tim Woods, just chance it out for me now. What is it? You know, it's not that you're just knowing it for the sake of knowing it. It's knowing it so that you can do something with it. And it's moving people through that progression of people to then becoming improvers, to then becoming, you know, if they can, to becoming a mentor for somebody else. But it's not going to be for everybody. So as long as they're engaged, that's enough. I'll take that. I'll take engaged workforce rather than one where you walk in and literally they're turning their backs on you because they've been so maltreated in the past. So anybody coming in, doesn't matter who you are, you know, everybody's doing that to you, and you're thinking, oh, what's going on here? I've only just walked in the place and yet they already don't seem to like me. You know, you've got a tougher job on your hands there. Much tougher job. That's probably because they've done some 5S with somebody else who's been a zealot.
You're a man of strong opinions, aren't you? You are absolutely a man of strong, and I love that about you, Tim. When I
walked into so many places that have done badly, you've got to, because, you know, there's a few charlatans out there, I've got to say.
No, absolutely are, absolutely are. And when I hear you talk about what are the key components of what is successful, in I guess in my language and how I talk about it, it's making the invisible visible.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about there, using the waste labels for things to help people see the things that shouldn't be happening. One question that I love to ask is what has happened that shouldn't have, or what should have happened that hasn't. And and in asking that question, for me, it uncovers opportunity, but it also really allows me to clarify whether people understand what should have happened and how clearly they've understood that. And any deviation from what should have happened is an opportunity, and the wastes allow you to give them labels and see those things, and then the SIPOC allows you to understand how that flows through from where it comes in to where it goes out and stuff. So no, okay, good. Hey, very good.
I'll tell you what really knocks me, Lee, is where you go into a facility. It's a huge facility, right? And you got somebody working at a station and they don't know what the end product is. Or they don't know where their bit fits in to the end product. And it's like, wow, what are you doing? What are you doing to people to have created that scenario where people don't see how the bit that they do fits into the whole?
Yeah, absolutely. We could have a whole conversation on that part of the thing, because I think that's a huge thing, and I think silos are. I've got a strong opinion. Silos are created in the boardroom, not on the shop floor, and because of how we're set up organisationally and stuff. We could absolutely have another conversation about this.
We should.
But I guess just to wrap this up, because I'm conscious of the time. So just talk about your book. Talk about where people can find out more about you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Okie dokie. Books, nice and yellow. Most others won't have a band going through it. That's just my copy. Swarm of Change, website called the same. There is LinkedIn business page on there as well. Swarm of Change, #Swarm of Change. All the other media platforms have just got a holding thing because I just didn't want anyone else to have them. But those are the main ones. So website, Swarm of Change. And in there, I've added... So I didn't want to be a charlatan. I did not want to be a charlatan. So before the book was published, and it's all on the website for people to look at, I went to people who I'd worked with, leaders who I considered absolutely credible leaders. And I said, we vaguely met so long ago, could you have a look at the manuscript and see what you think? And all of their feedback is on there. And then post publication, there's people have just connected with me on LinkedIn. They've gone and bought the book and read it. And so some of their posts are also chronicled on there about post publication. But you said there's a bit more to it. There's these things as well, the read it cards, which as a first stop act as like a bookmark. So I'm up to that part in the book. But what they also do is they help mentors to see exactly where they've read up to. And then I'm happy to share these mentor questions. So organizations that say, come on, we're going to do this, we're going to read the book, where they're buying for an okay proportion, like start off with 10% of your workforce. That's not going to be many. Most organizations like 100 people. So you can do the maths, it's not hard. But then you have those mentor questions because you're taking it seriously. I've got the good questions that I've already written out for you. So you can just access them on your phone so that when you're talking with somebody, you can ask a really good question about the book. And because you've read the book and you're asking the question, you know what the answer is, but you got it in your voice rather than some consultant speak. So you can say, yeah, I know who Bella is. Yeah, I know exactly who Bella is. Bella is. And as they're telling you that reply, you can go, yeah, they've got it. And it's two people connecting at a language level that they can understand. So you've got the mentoring questions, the mentor points, and they're also shown on this card as well. That's these funky little hexagons there with all of the interconnections inside, all of those conversations that are happening around it. And the spiral progression that's on here, which is sort of the logo, for me, it's go around the spiral once, go around that spiral once, and commit to some small amount of change. You know, go through the problem, what the action is, make sure it's complete, and then make sure it's effective. Do those things, and then you've got two massive levers then, which is where it all sort of ties together. You've got the people reading, improving. Then some of them are going to mentor others. It might be the leader in the business if it's a small business, absolutely fine. And then you've got people who are engaged. They're engaged to do the pace stuff, which is about the rate at which we're going to improve things. So Swarm of Change will give it you all. The book, you can only buy it from Amazon. If other people are trying to sell it to you, they're making a cut on it. It's on Amazon, same thing, Swarm of Change. And it's that whole swarm philosophy of starting small and growing the capability of your people is absolutely, you know, the title wasn't just something that just popped in there. And there's at one level it's a lovely novel, but at another level I'm going to talk about it. Of course I'm going to talk about it. I think it's going to transform businesses across the world. There you go. That's
there you go.
That's what it's going to do.
Go.
But we have
That's
actually got a pilot that we did, and no, it hasn't transformed the business, but it has solved a huge problem that they had. I can't talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it, but in terms of the impact that it's had, that first pilot where we've gone in and supported and done some extra activities, we're offering that as well. And I say we because there's some other people involved who are capable of doing it. But that's not the entry point. The entry point is one person picking up the book, and I've had people come back to me, they pick up the book, read it, and go, oh, I now understand SIPOC. I've gone and had a look at my process, and I've gone and redefined, you know, someone has actually come back to me and said that. And to me, I'm like, oh, it's exciting, because it's that same buzz, but other people are now experiencing it. And that's what it's, even when you've got a collective number of people reading, it's about each and every single reader and what they do. It's not about there's 40 people here, there's 20 people here. It's about each person seeing something, recognizing something, and doing something about it. And then they get the buzz, and we just share it around.
There you go. There you go. And I guess that's the perfect way to finish this conversation on how to create a buzz about change. Tim, I just want to say thank you so much for the conversation. Thank you so much for your thoughts, your views. It's been, like I said, absolute privilege and pleasure to chat with you today, sir.
Likewise, Lee. Thank you ever so much. And I recognise all the stuff that you're doing out there, and we wouldn't be chatting if I ever considered you a charlatan, and you are certainly not that. You are certainly not that. And I was absolutely chuffed to bits when, because you're keeping quiet about this, but you know, Coach of the Year, you know, that takes something. So you know, hats off to you. Like a lot.